Welcome to another episode of the Time Management Revolution podcast. I'm Helene Segura, and I'm a time management fixer. And today I'm very happy to have with us somebody who I met probably 10 or 15 years ago at a conference. And digitally, we've been able to stay in contact, and that is Dr. Ari Tuckman, who is a psychologist, international presenter, ADHD thought leader, and the author of 5 books, including his latest, the ADHD Productivity Manual. So welcome, Ari.
It is awesome to be back here. I'm glad to be chatting about, I'm all about time management. Love it. So much good stuff there.
Yeah, and that's actually how we met at a NAPO conference, which is about organizing and productivity. So it makes sense that we only talk to each other about this subject.
Yep.
And your expertise, which is ADHD. And I have heard a number of people say, oh, I have ADHD, even though they haven't been clinically diagnosed. So just for everybody out there, can you explain what exactly ADHD is?
Sure. So, everybody gets distracted sometimes. We all forget to do things. We procrastinate. We misplace things. That's just being human and imperfect. But folks with ADHD have those experiences much, much more often, and not just once in a while, and not just this year, but throughout life and across different situations have a much harder time kind of keeping their attention on what's most important, activating on things before the crisis of the last minute deadline, more forgetful, misplacing things, trouble staying organized. So it just sort of kind of chews away at their efficiency and effectiveness, just all kind of across their day and all across their life.
Mm-hmm. And is there a connection between time management and ADHD?
Oh boy, is there. So, yeah, it's, to manage time well, there's a lot that goes into it. Which is why, of course, you have an entire podcast and not just like a one TikTok video, right? Everything you need to know about time management. So, yeah, ADHD affects almost every part of managing time. And I kind of summarize it in a way that the two big kind of buckets, so to speak, is that ADHD makes it harder to see time, meaning what time is it now? How long have I been doing this? How much time do I have? Oh, wait, is it time to get up and go do something else? And also makes it harder to feel the future, meaning I've got this big deadline coming up. Do I feel that sort of fire in the belly right now to start working on it? And that could be, I got to get this to my boss by the end of the day. It could be, getting your taxes done, before they're overdue. It could be even like saving for retirement, right? 40 years from now, I want to have a good retirement. So, like feeling that. So my kind of slight joke here is that the slogan of ADHD time management is by the time you feel it, it's too late. Now, okay, fine. We all have some of that, right? We all
Right.
feel more pressure the closer we get to the deadline. But again, with ADHD, it's more so.
And how are the time management challenges of ADHD similar or different from what anybody else might face?
Yeah, and it's a difference in degree, not in kind, right? So it's not like that folks with ADHD have like unique challenges. They just have the same challenges, but more often.
Mhm.
In any of us, when we're being kind of overtaxed, right? We got too much going on, too much at work, too much at home, not enough sort of recharge time. We're not getting enough sleep. We're not eating well. We're not exercising, right? It can feel like you can feel a little bit ADHD, so to speak, but it doesn't actually mean,
Mhm.
obviously, it doesn't give you ADHD, but it's that feeling of just like, I don't have the mental, I don't know, like the gas in the tank to kind
Mhm.
of resist distractions, to stay focused, to persist on what needs to be done, to plan out my time, or even have a moment to think about what perhaps a plan might even look like.
Mhm. Now, in the previous question, you had mentioned that sometimes somebody with ADHD might not be able to sense the future, understand the future, feeling the future. And so, can you explain that a little more?
Yeah. So, this is a universal thing, right? And like a kind of a simple example of this is if I said, hey, I'll give you $100 right now, right? I'm going to whip out 520s, $100 cold cash in your hand, right? That would
Mhm.
feel pretty good. You'd be kind of psyched about that. But if I said, okay, so I'm going to give you $100, but not until 6 months from now. For some weird reason, you got to wait 6 months to get it. It doesn't feel as good, does it? Right? Like it's not as motivating to do something for that $100, right? And it's that things that are immediate rewards or punishments, right? Immediate consequences. We all feel that more strongly, even though logically, like numbers on a page, it's the same $100. It really shouldn't matter unless you're worried
Mhm.
about we're making rent this month. So like it's exactly the same amount. Just like if you have a big project for work, whether you spend 3 hours on it today or 3 hours on it, the night before it's due, it's still 3 hours,
Mhm.
presumably, and yet it doesn't feel the same, right? So when it's due tomorrow, right, we feel that more. So, like that is this, it's a concept called temporal discounting. Temporal meaning time, discounting meaning we sort of, feel it less. So, all
Mhm.
people do this, right? This is why people aren't good at saving for retirement. This is why people stay up too late. This is why people eat, junky food that tastes good in the moment but feels bad afterwards and is bad for your health, right? So we all do this kind of temporal discounting, but some people do it a lot more. And then afterwards, or when we're paying the consequence, that's when we're like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. So this ties directly into project management, whether we're talking about something that's huge or something, a really small project, whether it's 6 months out or 1 week out. How can we address this challenge with feeling the future? Does that mean we're breaking it down into smaller steps? What should we be doing?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Like this is all about project management, right? And of course, for any of us, like at any moment in time, you probably have 30 things you could do, right? It's not like
Mhm.
here's the one single only thing, unless maybe if you're on an airplane, I guess perhaps, but even then, now you're connected to Wi-Fi, you can do anything anyway. Um, the challenge is how do I balance out all these different tasks and not only work on the thing that's urgent and important, right? Like, yes, do those, but also some things are important, but they're not yet urgent, but they're going to be a problem. They're going to be problematically urgent if you wait till later. So, definitely breaking it into smaller pieces can make it feel easier, right? It's less daunting. I don't want to do, 10 hours straight on this, but if I do 1 hour now, I guess that feels a little bit better. But it's
Mhm.
really about kind of connecting to that future feeling or kind of what's called the future self, right?
Mhm.
So the me who is walking into the meeting with my boss, right? I'm picturing myself walking into the meeting and am I walking in head held high because I know I did the work, I'm ready, like give me your hardest questions, I got it, right?
Mhm.
Or how does it feel walking in knowing I stayed up too late? Also, my spouse is kind of annoyed with me because like we're not hanging out, right? And I didn't really get enough sleep and like fingers crossed, do not ask me about this part because like I really am not as solid on it as I need to be, right? So like,
Mhm.
how do I feel in that moment, right? And it's connecting to that future feeling is going to be much more motivating when
Mhm.
you're a week out or a few days out or whatever.
Mhm. Is forgetfulness a part of ADHD? All of a sudden things just sneak
Yeah.
up on you because you totally forgot about it.
Yeah, that is absolutely in big ways and in small ways. Forgetfulness is definitely a symptom of ADHD. And
Mhm.
it's really tied a bit more to attention, because our memory is only as good as our attention. If you didn't pay good attention in the moment, it doesn't get written into memory. Or if you're
Mhm.
not pausing in the moment to say, oh, right, wait a second, for this customer account, right, right, right. My boss said I have to do it this different way. Right. So,
Mhm.
so absolutely, some of this could be a memory thing of not writing down, oh my God, in that big meeting with my boss, I have to, present whatever, right? And it just like goes out of your mind. So it could be
Mhm.
that. or it could be other things are forgotten, and then that becomes the urgent crisis. And then the prepping for the meeting, gets pushed aside because you don't have time to do it, right? This is the thing I got to get out. So,
Hmm.
it's one thing to make a good plan, but then you got to remember what the plan is in each moment that you're doing something, and then hopefully make the best choices in each moment for how to
Hmm.
use that moment.
Okay. That's all. That's all we need to do.
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
So
That's why life is
if
hard.
yeah, so if we begin practicing pausing in the moment when we were intaking information so we can allow it to be written into our brains and
Mhm.
then capture those thoughts somewhere easily
Yeah.
accessible and perhaps review these thoughts we've captured at the end of each day, end of each week, is that would that be a good practice to help out?
In an ideal situation, that is exactly it, right? Like that is
Okay.
exactly it. To,
Mhm.
in an intentional way, kind of pausing to consider, like,
Mhm.
what's the deal with this? What are the implications? What do I need to do with it? Because I think often where we get ourselves into trouble is it kind of there's a danger on both sides here. On the one hand, it's like, oh yeah, I got to do that. Okay, well, anyway, I need to do this first. I'll just remember to do it, right? We don't pause to write it down. And then
Mhm.
it falls off until we get a terrible reminder about it. But it can kind of go the other way also, where we take things on without pausing to consider, like, is this actually worth doing? I mean, it's sort of worth doing in a vacuum. If I had nothing else to do, this does add value somehow to my life or my job or something. But
Mhm.
does it add enough value? So if I'm going to spend an hour on this, where's that hour coming from? Right? Because you don't invent new hours. So like, what am I not doing in that hour I'm working on this? And does it
Mhm.
kind of make the cut, right? Is it the best use of my time? So this is where you get into like, the ever expanding to-do list that just gives you a panic attack when you look at it, right? Because there's so much on there and it can't be done. And, like, so the first part is assessing, do I even want to do this? Do I have time to do it? Does it align with what I'm trying to do? Whatever. But then there's also the thing of like, that seemed like a good idea at the time. And now it's not. Like that's no longer a thing I'm going to get to, and giving yourself
Mhm.
permission to kind of let it go and to recognize that like, to-do lists are dynamic, evolving documents.
Yes, living, breathing, growing, and hopefully at some point shrinking a little bit before it grows again 2
Yes.
days later.
Hmm.
So, and at what point, because we've been talking about managing time better, and at what point should we stop trying to be more efficient and instead focus on cutting back on obligations? Because
Yes.
you started to hint at it with what you were saying about we need to think about, do we really need to do this?
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you said this because, throughout kind of thinking about and writing the ADHD Productivity Manual, and every time I sort of present or speak on this, right? Like I think this is such an important point because the easy part of this, like obviously, we would all love the idea of being more productive, specifically being more efficient, meaning I'm getting more done in the same amount of time or preferably less. But there does reach a point where we do need to have some sort of thought on, but what's actually good enough? Like, how much more productive do I need to be? And because like nothing is free in life, what is that next step of productivity going to take? And is it worth it? Or are there other things I would rather put my time, my finite time, energy, and mental resources into? So, and I think especially if you feel like you're just sort of on the rat wheel, where you're killing yourself at work, you're always running in your personal life, right? There's never any time to breathe, then that may be a time to really sort of evaluate. But of course, the hard part is when you're sprinting on the rat wheel, there's no time to catch your breath and pause and think about anything. So, you know,
Mhm.
um, and granted, also there are times in life where it just that is what it's going to be, right? It's just like there's no way to like gracefully juggle it all. But
Mhm.
there's a difference between I've thought about and accepted the fact that this time right now, this is just what it is, versus I'm just doing it because it's what I'm doing. and I haven't really examined to see, are there places I can cut some things back? Are there places I can get a little bit of space for myself? And of course, the first answer is no, nothing, nowhere. Everything has to be done. And then as you really, really begin to think about it, you begin to realize like, well, some things are, I may not love it and there might be a price, but also like it is possible. The world will not end if I sort of pull back a bit on this.
Hmm. I've heard many people say I was diagnosed with ADHD later in life.
Mm.
And some people wonder if ADHD is environmentally caused, meaning it developed over time because of the situation that you're in, or is it something that's biological or genetic? So, what's the
Sure.
answer, doctor?
Yeah, yeah. So the science is very, very clear on this. This is not an open debate sort of a question. So, most of the impact, like most of the cause of ADHD comes from genetics. That if you have ADHD, there's pretty good odds somebody in your genetic family tree also has it.
Mhm.
There are potentially some environmental impacts, but they're during, pregnancy and childbirth, so anything that affects brain development. So certain exposures or loss of oxygen during delivery or something can certainly affect your brain in unhappy ways. But it's not about, too much cell phones or iPads. It's not about like eating too much junk food. So like that is absolutely proven not to cause ADHD. But,
Mhm.
certainly how you perform in your day is a function not only of whether you have ADHD or what are your strengths or weaknesses, but also what are the demands. So if you're a smart kid with ADHD in high school and, you get a bit of help from your parents and you charm your teachers into giving you extensions and whatnot, right? You can do pretty good. And then let's say you get into college, you're still the same kid, right? Fundamentally, your brain is not that different. Like there's a little more maturity, hopefully, um, but all of a sudden, college is a whole different ball game, right? The demands are completely different, and now you're going to struggle. So it's not like your ADHD just showed up. It's that
Mhm.
the demands now exceeded your ability to manage it. Or if
Mhm.
you didn't have kids, you could stay an extra hour or two at work because it's quiet and you can get your stuff done that you didn't get done at 11 a.m. But now you've got like a hard stop, pickup. Like you can't stay late. And now, boy, are you feeling it. So, if someone is diagnosed with ADHD recently, it's not that they developed ADHD recently, it's that they finally sort of sought out the diagnosis or sought out the more accurate diagnosis.
Hmm. And speaking of seeking out, if I feel that I have symptoms of ADHD, where do I go to get a diagnosis and then get help?
Yeah, so, there's a few different ways that ADHD is diagnosed, but really the best way is to go to someone, maybe it's a psychologist, a psychiatrist, neurologist, some other clinician who can spend enough time, so at least an hour, maybe do some rating scales, but not necessarily, and just tell me, like, how are you doing in your life now? How did you do? What about in your life before this? Let's talk about family history. Let's look at other things that look like ADHD, right? And make sure it's not that. So it's really about spending enough time to really figure out that this is what is going on. So
Mhm.
filling out a quick rating scale and spending 6 minutes with your family doc is not enough. And spending 6 grand in 2 days getting neuropsychological testing is way too much and not actually more helpful. So,
Hmm.
a good interview that really looks at the whole span of your life is really the best way to go.
Okay. And moving into the personal, since this is a time management podcast,
Mhm.
what are some of your own personal best practices related to time management, staying focused and staying organized during the day?
Sure. So this is an unsexy answer, but it's an important one. Okay. So, um, I am really big on sleep, diet, and exercise. Now, I'm not always awesome at sleeping because I sometimes suck at it, but I'm always very intentional about trying to be good at it.
Hmm.
I always bring food to the office. I eat every hour, like between every session, I eat a little something, right? Like there is never a time where I don't have food with me. I go to the gym because like, your ability to be effective is only as good as as how well your brain is working. And
Mhm.
the thing about exercise is it's not about, oh, I want to get in shape or lose weight. It's a terrible motivator because the problem with that is, I'm going to go to the gym a lot and maybe slowly, possibly my body will look different. Awful motivator. It doesn't excite you. But I
Mhm.
went to the gym and now I'm going to feel better today. I will be more effective. I'll be more focused. I'll get more done. I'll probably be more fun to be around, right? Immediate payoff, way more motivating. So,
Mhm.
the unfortunate part of it is if your life feels out of control, often the first thing they go is sleep, diet, and exercise. And I get it. But also, that is a place to begin to get a bit of control back, to begin to fill the tank a bit more so that you can then do the rest of this stuff to kind of wrestle your schedule under control.
Mhm. Well, I would have to respectfully disagree. I don't think that's unsexy
Yep.
because I think that's the basis that if we don't
Yeah.
take care of ourselves first, then we can't make good decisions about anything in life, not just time management, and we can't take care of other people who we
Yeah.
are trying to put first. So I think that's absolutely key. So thank you for saying that. It's not unsexy.
Yes. Good. Good.
Yes. So Ari, I'm sure there are a lot of people who want to get in touch with you to grab one of your books, to see where you're speaking. What's the best way to connect with you?
So best way is my books and speaking website, which is adultadhdbook.com. And I've got all sorts of stuff on there.
Okay, wonderful. And we will definitely post that link underneath in all of the descriptions, as well as links to your books. Anywhere that they're selling. Are they also on Amazon?
They are, yeah.
Okay.
And it's the new one is available paperback, ebook, audiobook,
Mhm.
kind of all the ways of getting it on all the
Oh,
platforms.
good. Okay, that's great. But the most important link will be the main one that you just gave, so they can get all the information that
Yep.
there is to get about you. Well, Ari, thank you so much for spending time with us today.
This was great. Like I said, I love talking about this stuff. This was awesome.